Locked on Longhorns, the show. Jonathan Davis, your host. Today's episode of Locked on Longhorns is brought to you by LinkedIn. Get the applicants you need faster and for free at LinkedInjobs.com. We are previewing the Baylor Texas game on Friday, and I have Baylor royalty on the show today, Mr. J.J. Joe, former Baylor Bears quarterback in the early 90s. What's going on, J.J.?
Not much, my friend. This is probably the only time I'd get on a Longhorn type network. I tell you, but it's great to be on with you.
Yeah, Baylor royalty over 8,000 yards. I forgot how many touchdowns you had. And if you're watching on YouTube, look at these pictures, man. Look at this. Who is this right here, man?
Oh, that's a
This
dude. I don't even know who that dude is anymore.
is that's RG3 before RG3. And then look at this, man.
Oh, my man Grant, great coach.
Baylor royalty. I have to ask you, you were the quarterback for the Baylor Bears in the early 90s. So what's your favorite Baylor football moment that you were a part of?
Oh wow, that I was a part of that. It's really close. I would say the number one A would probably be my Richard. I'm sorry, my sophomore year. My sophomore year, we had a chance to play the defending national champions Colorado in Boulder, and we got them. We clipped them. They hadn't lost a home game in 18. I think they had won 18 straight games at home. So we clipped them there, and that was really great. And then I would say that picture you show, that's either the Baylor UT game in '92, my junior year, or yeah, that's actually, I'm gonna tell you what that is. That is actually the Sun Bowl after we had beat UT. That's Taft's last game. Then we're ahead, and I think he's we were talking about, like, just killing the clock there. So that was a high point for me because Coach Taft means a lot to a lot of us.
Okay, and what was your favorite moment against the Texas Longhorns here on this Locked On Longhorns podcast?
Oh man, yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna tell you this now. I ended my career at DKR there. I mean, like, so we were like 500 and middling along my last year, and the Longhorns beat us, and that ended my career there. But I would say the favorite moment was that '92 year, that year that we won that last game that allowed Coach Taft to coach another game, and we won that one. So, but I would say probably, now I didn't play in this game because I was a redshirt that year, but my true freshman year, we went down there and beat them 50-7. Now I wish I would have been on the
Ooh.
sideline, but I wasn't. But we had some guys. We had about 3 or 4 NFL guys that were high level defensive players, and they turned them over. And that was a really great game.
It looked like the offense did something too, right? 50-7, man. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
It was.
So now you're doing color commentary
Yeah.
for the Baylor Bears and blessing them. So I want to ask you, last year this team won the Big 12 championship, and now in Dave Aranda's third year, they're 6-5. And so what have been your honest thoughts of Dave Aranda this year and this Baylor Bears football team?
Yeah, this team has been a quandary for Coach Aranda. I think, because we had so many guys coming back. I think we had probably 15 returning starters, something like that. But it was, they were all linemen and, like, what I would call second level linebackers. He didn't have any skill players. We made the switch at quarterback, of course, but so this team really, it's been a quandary for him. I still think Coach Aranda is the right coach. It's just that all of those really tight contests where we had those guys who had metal, like Jalen Petrie, Terrell Bernard, JT Woods, Raleigh Tejada, and a number of other guys that I might not be naming that came through in the clutch. This team hadn't found those guys. So all those close games, the BYU game, the game on Saturday against TCU, the West Virginia game that we went through a lot, those games were games we won last year, but those have been games we've lost this year. We're missing those guys.
Yeah, so a crucial decision was made in the offseason, and that was to go with Blake Shapen instead of Gerry Bohannon, who carried the Baylor Bears to the Big 12 championship game last year. Do you think that was the right decision, you being the quarterback expert on the show? And what have you seen from Blake Shapen this year?
John, that's a great question. I've been asked that a lot. Matter of fact, on Sigum 365 there, I wrote an article a little bit about Blake. I know I'll do a post mortem on the season, but I do think it was the right decision. Now, I will say this. The one thing this team is missing, forget quarterback running and all that, it is what I call the gristle, the metal from all of those veterans who've been through a lot. And Gerry was one of those guys. Gerry that was his first year starting last year, but Gerry actually had to go through, being a highly recruited player to sitting on the bench behind Charlie to deciding I think I'm a transfer to not transferring and going through a lot of things. So he was really tested as well, just off the field. And then he finally got his chance. So I would say from a leadership standpoint, they do miss all of, not just Gerry, but Gerry and all those guys I mentioned before. But just from a quarterback standpoint, where this program has to go, Blake was the right guy. Now, when I tell people, I was like, look, I was like, this is a normal cycle for a quarterback to go through. We've been spoiled by certain players. Texas had Vince Young way back in the day. But VY didn't play until like his fourth year. People forget he sat behind, I think it was Major, and then Chris. I forget Chris's famous dad, Chris.
Chris Sims.
Chris Sims. There you go. Thank you, Jonathan. And in the same way here, we had RG3. RG3 was young. He was the exception to the rule. But then the other quarterbacks we had, Jonathan, that was really good after those guys in the Browns era, those were fourth year guys. So Blake, to me, he started 13 college games. For you guys, Quinn Ewers has started, I think, 6 or maybe 7. Those guys have to go through the normal process of seeing defenses, getting adjusted to, adjusting, and then going into an off season, getting better and coming back. And that's where we are with Blake. Blake has a lot of strengths, but he has some stuff he has to clean up, i.e. his footwork and all those type of things. But I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, we'll talk about Quinn Ewers next, but what are those strengths you speak of? What have you seen from Blake Shapen that makes you feel like Dave Aranda made the right decision moving on from Gerry Bohannon?
Number one, I think he's a tough guy. I think he's a former baseball player. Came to Baylor, kind of think he's going to play both, but then he wanted to start. So he made a decision to just focus on football. When you play baseball, you have to live with a little failure. And I think he has that. When he's had tough games or not really performed, he's bounced back the next week. That tells me he's a resilient guy. So I like that. I like the arm strength that he can throw with anybody. That's what made it so strange to me to see him underthrow Monterey Baldwin twice. I'm thinking, I know Blake can fire the thing. I know he can throw it 65, 70 easy. So it was just surprising to me to see him underthrow him, and those were big plays where he did underthrow him. But really for him, so those are his strengths to me, the arm, I think the metal, just that he has a toughness about him. I think he's learning to lead better. I think during the season, he's more of a quieter guy, but there's nothing wrong with that. But as a quarterback, you have to learn that you have to talk, you have to be a little bit more vocal. And I think he's learning that. But overall, I think, he has all the necessary skill. Let me put it this way. I made a comment in the article. I said, look, in every game we went into, I did not feel like we were outmanned at quarterback. Now, that doesn't mean the other quarterback didn't play better than Blake, but I never felt in either of this game. And I don't feel like that on Sunday. Even though you guys have a guy who could probably be a first-round draft choice one day, so I don't feel like Baylor will be outmanned at QB.
Yeah, you talked about Quinn Ewers possibly being a future first-round draft pick, one of the most heralded, quarterback prospects really coming out of high school in the country ever, right? Especially in the state of Texas, Quinn Ewers. And it's been a little bit of a bumpy road. It started off hot against Alabama and Oklahoma, and then it's, definitely simmered down a lot since then. As a former quarterback, J.J., what have you seen in a young quarterback in Quinn Ewers for the Texas Longhorns?
Man, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't sure about him because I'd only heard about Quinn. Now, I saw Quinn a little bit in high school. He played at Southlake here in the DFW area where I'm from. My nephew actually coaches. He's an offensive lineman coach at Duncanville. And they bumped heads with Duncanville on a number of occasions. I think Quinn's senior year, they may have actually beat Duncanville, or Duncanville lost before they got to him. But nevertheless, I know he's highly touted. He has an NFL arm. The guy has a little moxie, and he's actually cool. I was surprised in that Alabama game how cool he was for a freshman. I was kind of like, is this dude a freshman? So the moment wasn't too big for him, so I like that about him. You could tell he has NFL arm talent. And that's that's huge. That's a raw material that all the quarterbacks have to have nowadays if you're thinking about going, to the league. So, but I think, for Quinn, from watching him, what he's dealing with, like the TCU game, he's dealing with teams now will say, okay, this young man is good. Blake Shapen, you're good. Quinn Ewers, you're good. I am not about to let you do what you like to do. I'm going to confuse you. I'm going to mix things up. I'm going to mix a coverage. I'm going to mix a blitz. I'm going to show, I'm going to go. And those guys have to go through that under pressure in high leverage moments until they see it again the next time. And I think that's where they are. They're learning, and they need an off season, right? They need to get back with their technique with their quarterback coach, get in the film room, video room, and then come back next year with that same talent they have on the edge, and then perform hopefully at a higher level.
So it sounds like you think Blake Shapen and Quinn Ewers will both be a lot better next season after another offseason of work and some more development.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I actually played. I mean, like I get it. Yeah, I was very frustrating as a young quarterback. I had a chance to start my redshirt freshman year after I started, got hurt, and I had some good games, and I come back have some bad games. And the next year, '91, I took off. I was doing really well, and then toward the end, I kind of waned. So it's a normal cycle for quarterbacks now to have to go through these. The development cycle is just not linear. We all would like it to be linear, where it just goes up and up and up and up. And actually, it's a little bit. It's like a what I call an economic cycle. It goes up, it comes back a little bit, and I think that's where they are. And I think both of them will be much better. Now, they're going to have, you guys going to have Manning coming there. Baylor has a high recruit in Novosad that's out. I forget the school he's out of, but he's a highly recruited young man. And they have a couple. They have Kyron Drones that's here. Kyron has shown in flashes. So the one thing about now in these programs is like, hey, look, you got to keep getting it, because if not, there's a guy behind you that, hey, he'll take your spot.
Yeah, Steve Sarkisian said going into next season, there definitely will be a clean slate at the quarterback position. So definitely send a message to Quinn Ewers. He's going to have to be hungry this offseason and earn the job. Once again, a quick word from LinkedIn, and then J.J. is going to scout the Baylor Bears on offense and defense for us. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. JJ, I want to ask you, on the offensive end, the Baylor Bears are at their best when fill in the blank.
Oh, now I think you guys you may have seen it, Jonathan, when they have the ability to get the run game going. The experience is up front. We have 4 returning starting linemen. All those guys are, not all of them are seniors, but I think Mike Mazuka is the only one that's an underclassman. Gavin Byers started for a little bit, but now we have I'm forgetting my right tackle's name, but he's back. So when Baylor's able to get their runners 30 carries or more, it's hard to beat them. The challenge for us, like it was on a Saturday, and actually we actually ran the ball fine, but on the games we've lost, really outside of Saturday, we've been challenged getting our runners, the Richard Reeses and Squirrels and Quaylon Jones, the ball enough times. When we're able to get them 30 touches, typically what happens is that sets up our play action game, that forces defenses to give us a little bit heavier dose of what I'm gonna call a 3 deep or a man free, or they at least have to involve a secondary player in the box a little bit more. And Blake can throw it. It simplifies coverages for him. So when we're running the ball with those 3 runners and they're getting good action with them, man, the offense is really tough to beat. And I think actually against TCU, John, we actually had a good offensive game plan. But we had a couple things where we went down and we just stubbed our toe and we didn't get points. And against TCU, you have to get points.
Yeah, this Texas defense is one of the best in the country against the run, so it's definitely going to be strength on strength. This Baylor offense trying to establish this run, and this Texas defense doing what they've done all season, being able to stop the run. This Baylor Bears team defensively is at their best when fill in the blank.
I really think, when, early in the season, they were really doing a good job of stopping the run and forcing teams to drop back and be one-dimensional. The experience has been up front and with our linebackers. The weakness or the challenges for us, the development area, has been our secondary. We had Christian Morgan coming back. We lost both corners for the most part. We actually didn't lose both corners, but we moved Al Walcott to the star position. But really, in essence, Lorando Johnson and Mark Milton were first-year starters at corner. A.J. McCarty behind him played a lot, but he was a first-year guy, really playing at that high level. So really, we can't allow a team to be, dual threat against. We can't have a team that's able to run the ball like Texas will do. Texas has Bijan Robinson at tailback. Then they come in and bring in, Johnson behind him, and then they got Xavier Worthy on the edge and then the tight end. I love that guy. I actually watched that kid from Den
JT
Ryan.
Sanders. Yeah,
I'm gonna tell
Jatavius
you,
Sanders.
I saw that kid play basketball, man. I didn't even go watch him play football. I knew he's a good football player, but he played basketball at Den Ryan against Birdville was in there. My son's school was in their district, and he was a good basketball player too. Big body, good hands, but he's going to be a tough cover too. So Baylor has to find a way to bottle up Bijan Robinson like they did last year. Last year they were able to bottle him up and kind of contain him some, and that allowed them then to kind of play some games.
Yeah, definitely. Texas is 6-0 this year when they've been able to run the ball more than they passed the ball. They're 0-3 when they pass the ball more than they rush the ball this year. So definitely they're going to try to get Bijan Robinson in that running back room established. And, of course, Baylor is going to be locked in on trying to stop that running back room and probably try to make Quinn Ewers beat them from what we've seen over the last month. We talked about a Baylor team that won the Big 12 championship last year, but now is sitting at 6-5. And of course, it's going to go to a bowl game, but as far as this game, they have no chance to make it to the Big 12 championship. Right. So most people would say they really don't have anything to play for. What type of effort do you expect from this football team? We know everybody gets up for Texas, so we know everybody gets up for Texas.
Yeah, everybody, right?
But what type of effort do you expect from this Baylor team, knowing that they really have nothing to play for in this game?
Yeah, and that's a challenge, man. I wasn't sure. I kind of figured that they would get up for TCU. I mean, very seldom do you have a top 5 team coming to your house, right? And TCU is a rival for us. I mean, for Baylor, that's been one of the longest played series ever. So it didn't surprise me that Baylor played what I would call winning football. We just couldn't close the deal against TCU. And I expect the same on Saturday. I mean, for most of these guys, for most of those seniors, this is the last football game they'll play. You'll have a select number of them that'll go to all-star games and maybe play at the next level. But, I expect them, everybody wants to beat UT. You know how that is, Jonathan. I mean, if you lost to TCU, but if you can say I ended my career like I did, like you asked me what's the most memorable game, and I kind of went to that 92 game, 92 season as being in the top 3. Well, we beat UT at home. We just went. That win took us to 6-5, right? It wasn't like we were like 9-2 or 9-1, right? So I expect these guys to play at a very high level. Now, I'll say this: the challenge for this team has been, when the defense may be playing well, something happens. And last year, that championship level team was able to deal with it. This team has been more challenged at dealing with adversity. So it's going to happen, and I'll see that. It'll be interesting to see that if something happens and UT gets to going, kind of how we respond.
Yeah, this Texas team has an outside chance to make the Big 12 championship. So the Baylor Bears are going to have to expect that Texas Longhorns are going to give them everything they have on Friday. JJ, I'm not necessarily going to ask you to pick the game. I know who you probably rocking with, right? You did play quarterback for the Baylor Bears. Okay, he's picking Baylor, right? So how do you see this game playing out on Friday, on Black Friday?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I don't know. It's when you get to these rivalry games, you just don't know how they'll play out. I really expect it to be a hard-fought game. I think UT is in a great position because they won their last game. They came off a tough loss to TCU, went to Kansas, took care of Kansas. So at least they feel good about themselves. I would say just today is Tuesday. I think Baylor may just now be getting over the sting of that loss. It may even leak until tomorrow.
It was tough. So it was a great game. Horrible way to lose.
Yeah, it is terrible, man. So I would expect, man, that I think for Baylor, we may be a little slow coming out of the gate because I think of that. And if that's the case, if that happens, it'll be tough for us to catch UT. So if what I think happens, I think it'll be hard for us to beat UT on Saturday. If what I think happens means that we're a little slow out the gate just because we have the hangover. But I'm hoping to God that we don't let the TCU game beat us twice. And that, the guys start fast. To be in the game on Saturday, Baylor has to start fast and not let UT front run. Because if UT front runs, it's hard to deal with them, man. Too hard to deal with them.
Yeah, definitely. And you talk about this Texas team that, like I said, has an outside chance to make it to the Big 12 championship. They have to hope that Kansas beats Kansas State. But luckily for Texas, that game comes before the Kansas and Kansas State game. So I expect them to come out with everything to play for. Senior day is at home at DKR, and that defense has been flying, right? It's been one of the best defenses in the country, especially the last 2 weeks. And so I think they'll give this Baylor Bears offense some trouble as well. If you want to bet on this game, head to Bet Online. They currently have the spread Texas favored by 9 points over the Baylor Bears. Vegas loves the burnt orange and white. Look, I'm not telling you which way to
Goodness
go on the
gracious.
spread. You know, I think Baylor. I
Nine?
mean, I think Texas will win. 9 points is a lot. You know
Oh
what I'm
my
saying?
goodness.
But
Hey, I'm not a betting
Texas,
man, but if I
yeah,
was, I might bet green on that game if I was a
yeah.
betting man. I'm
Of
not
course,
though.
the former Baylor quarterback is going to hammer the Baylor Bears, man. JJ, I greatly appreciate you for helping Longhorn Nation scout the Baylor Bears and giving us some insight from a former quarterback, on Blake Shapen and Quinn Ewers. If there's any Baylor fans that want to hear your work that have listened this far, or if there's any Texas fans that may want to hear your work, let them know where they can find you, JJ, or listen to you.
Yeah, hey man, I know they're normally listening to Craig Way. I love Craig Way on the broadcast there. So we're over at 1660 in Waco. That's the ESPN affiliate there. Is where we're heard. We're also, I know you have to check the notes. I forget. I know we're on Sirius during the play-by-play during the game. But really, the big thing, Sikkim 365. I do some writing for them. I'll usually have some kind of post-mortem of the game each week, and also kind of previewing what's next and kind of on our players as well. So those are the spots.
Yeah, and happy holidays, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope y'all get nice and full, and hope we beat the Baylor Bears on Friday. Hook 'em and peace.